All right, good morning. I'm Bill Brown, class of 1975, and president of the Alumni Association. Welcome to the 2005 Distinguished Alumni Awards Ceremony. Since 1995, the J.P. McCaskey Alumni Association has been proud to present these awards to those individuals who have achieved a level of stature which the students of the School District of Lancaster will want to emulate. I'm sure you already know that McCaskey is a terrific place that produces special graduates. 30 years ago, when I was getting ready to walk across the stage and receive my diploma, I knew it too. But let me give you some perspective that the years and my experience have given me. For the last 25 years, I've been working in the admission office at Lebanon Valley College. I get to talk to prospective students from Florida to Hawaii, from Maine to California, and including students from J.P. McCaskey High School. The McCaskey students are not always the best, or the brightest, or the most outspoken, but the intangible qualities they bring, their sincerity, drive, humor, understanding, interest, and integrity make them uniquely recognizable and very special. These are qualities that our honorees had and have, and that you too will carry from this place. Booker T. Washington said, "Excellence is a common thing, is to do a common thing in an uncommon way." Today, we honor 5 individuals who have demonstrated outstanding character and achievement in their fields and in their communities by doing common things in uncommon ways. Thank you for joining us today and in helping to honor the 2005 Distinguished Alumni Award recipients. It's now my pleasure to invite to the podium the Superintendent of the School District of Lancaster, Dr. Rita Bishop.
Good morning. Oh, come on. Good morning. It's really a pleasure and a tremendous honor to be here at an event honoring 5 such distinguished individuals. You know, several years ago, Army was playing Navy outside Philadelphia, and I drove back through Lancaster with my son, and we happened to end up in front of McCaskey High School. And he said some words that I've said to many of you several times. "Now, Mom, that's a high school." And and you know, it's a beautiful place. But as I've worked here over the past several months, I've come to really believe, "Now, Mom, that's a high school," is important, and more important than I would ever have realized after that football game. You know, many of the seniors out in the audience will be graduating in the next several weeks. And before you get too excited, with that diploma goes a great many responsibilities. And I believe that you've had one of the finest educations that you could possibly have had. And now, Mom, that's a high school. But as you look at the 5 people sitting on the stage behind me, remember that you really very possibly, any 5 of you may well be sitting there one day fairly soon. So it's not what happens right now, it's what you do with what you've learned at McCaskey High School. And so I would ask you to read the description of these 5 lives carefully, and to really understand that the contributions that you make to this society for the rest of your life will be extremely important. You know, none other than Ben Franklin said that genius without education is like silver in the mine. And each day, I thank God that we have great public high schools, great public schools. But I'm a high school person, so I thank God for great public high schools that enable people to produce for our society like the 5 people seated on the stage this morning. It is my pleasure now to introduce Mr. Patrick Snyder, who serves on our school board and serves with the Alumni Association as chairman of our finance committee, and one of the most committed individuals to the aims of education in this area. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Patrick Snyder, and I have the extreme honor and pleasure of introducing this year's J.P. McCaskey High School Alumni Association Distinguished Alumni Award winners. Before doing this, though, I would like to take a moment and recognize past recipients of this award who are present with us here today. And as I call your name, if you could please stand and be recognized. Rosa Cunningham Harris. Nelson Polite Sr. Mr. Leon Buddy Glover. Gordy Kraft. Barbara Valvanis, my apologies. Dr. Paul Rippon. Katie Rogers Butcher. And Mayor Charlie Smithall. If I have forgotten anyone, please stand. I don't want to do that intentionally. Okay, thank you. I also would like to recognize that Dr. Jerry Morville, our new campus principal, is here with us and joined us on stage today. My apologies. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I also would like to recognize the Distinguished Alumni Awards Committee. The members include Buddy Glover, William Bowden, Nelson Polite Sr., Susan Garafola, Nicholas Giannopoulos, Charles Blumenstock, John Luce, Joe Notwell Stokes, Dawn Hawkins Schultz, Joan Stransworth, Sherma Height Wolstenhoon, and William Brown. And finally, before we get into part of the program here, I would like to recognize members of the Alumni Board who are present. Again, Nelson Polite, Ruth Snyder, Dottie Hammond, and Bill Brown. If you would stand, please. Now comes a little bit of an interactive part. This is with you, the students. What I would like to know is, by a show of hands, how many of you went through Reynolds Middle School? That's right. Reynolds Middle School, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely the best middle school that the school district has. Now, the reason I can say that, and I know it for a fact, is I went to Reynolds Middle School, so that's, I have no doubt that Reynolds Middle School is absolutely the best. It was a few years ago, again, in the early 70s, that I went through. Now, by a show of hands, who attended Lincoln Middle School? If my wife was here, she would tell me very quickly that Lincoln is absolutely the best middle school because she attended Lincoln. Who here attended Hand Middle School? I have four brothers and sisters who would argue with me very strongly as they attended Hand Middle School, so they would tell me very quickly that Hand was absolutely the best middle school. And finally, Wheatland Middle School. That's right, Wheatland. My son would tell me that Wheatland was the best middle school, again, because that's where he attended. And basically what I'm trying to illustrate is that all of us in this auditorium, we all came from different backgrounds. We all came from different middle schools. We all came from different families and from different situations, but we come together here at McCaskey as one. And it doesn't matter if you're at East or if you're at McCaskey, we are one high school. Let there be no mistake. And that is what helps to form McCaskey pride. Many of you have that now. Some of you don't even realize you have it, but when you graduate and you move on in life, trust me, you will remember the years you spent here, and you will look back fondly. I have no doubt about that. I can tell you also for the juniors here that although you only have one more year to prepare for your future, it's going to be an opportunity where next year you're going to make your mark in many different ways. For the seniors here, your time is now. As Dr. Bishop mentioned, you only have a couple of weeks before you're going to be walking down the aisle. And while some of you know what your future holds, many others of you, I'm sure, are very uncertain as to what the future is going to bring. I can tell you that when I graduated, I was probably in that latter group. While I knew I was going to Millersville College, I was going to study psychology, I had no idea what the future was going to bring. I had no idea that I would become a banker and an investment advisor for the past 25 years. I had no idea that I would be coming before you today as a member of the school board and as a member of the alumni board. What I'm trying to point out again with all of this is that, just like yourselves at this point, I'm sure that the winners who are up here today for the Distinguished Alumni Awards, when they were in high school and they sat in these same seats, had no idea as to where life would lead them, as to what career paths they would choose, as to what lives they would touch, as to how they would affect the community that they live in, both where they're at now and back here at home in Lancaster in such positive ways. At this time, I would like to continue and start the introductions of our award winners. The first person is, we are very McCaskey proud to have Robert Mora. He is from the class of 52. Our second award winner will be Kenneth Stoudt from class of 61. Sharon Schmid will be accepting on behalf of her husband Dennis Schmid, class of 61, and Gerhart from class of 63, and Frank Wright Jr. from the class of 83 are all here with us today. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Robert Mora. Robert is a professional scenic and costume designer. He has over 35 motion pictures, many Broadway productions, and numerous television specials and concert tours to his credit, including the likes of The Birdcage, The Last Dragon, Risky Business, Air Force One, and Exorcist II. At this time, I would like Mr. Robert Mora to come forward.
Gee, thank you so much. Being a designer and in theater and film and television, public speaking is not my field of expertise. So you'll all bear with me, I hope, and see me through this difficult period where I have to make a speech, and I've just made a few little scribbled notes on a piece of paper. First of all, I have to thank the committee for this honor and this very gracious welcome here today. I have not been back in this auditorium since I graduated in 1952, which is a long period of time. And I must say that when I came up to the front of the building, I was so impressed with the beauty of this school. This school is one of the most beautiful buildings in the entire United States, maybe even the world. It really is extraordinary. Built in the late 30s, I believe, 39, 37. It's a fine example of Art Deco architecture. It really is incredible. And I hope that you all realize that, because for me, coming back, it really struck me so profoundly how beautiful it is and how exciting it was to have spent years here. I didn't really remember it as being quite so extraordinary, but it is. Nonetheless, when I came here as a sophomore, I was sort of a skinny little scrawny geeky guy, and I had a few illnesses, and I like to paint and draw and spend my time at home because I was housebound a lot. When I arrived here, I suddenly found myself surrounded with a group of teachers who took me under their wing and nurtured me and provided me with some kind of, this incredible inspiration to just go out there and go after your dream, and created such a passion in me to actually not just draw in my bedroom, but to go out into the world and paint. I had 3 teachers here that really made an incredible difference in my life. I had an art teacher by the name of Stoudt, who was a genius in the teaching profession, and she became a very close friend of mine as well. And until she died, we remained very close friends. So this wonderful relationship developed between the 2 of us because she was so knowledgeable about art and she was so giving. I also had an English teacher who was the advisor for the dramatics classes, and her name was Naomi Terry. And she took this scrawny, geeky little guy, and she let me work with the theater group and be a participant in the plays. And very subtly, I had a very, very Pennsylvania Dutchy accent at the time, and she was very subtle in that she would correct me, and my pronunciations, which were really, as I said, very Pennsylvania Dutchy, and helped me to, speak a little more acceptably, let's say. I had a 3rd teacher who was an English teacher, who was the advisor for the Vedette, which is the school newspaper then. I don't know if it's still called the Vedette these days. And the yearbook, the Echo, and I worked on both of those as the art editor for the yearbook, and I did articles. I loved to write as well. So those 3 teachers, that combination, that sort of magic combination of art and literature, English, all that dramatics, coming together sort of set my mind in motion to go out into the world and pursue 1 or 2 of those careers. I went off first to art school. I managed to get a wonderful scholarship to an art school through the National Scholastic Awards through Miss Pauline Stoudt, who would each year take her classes on bus trips to New York. We went to museums. We went to Philadelphia to special showings of artists there. And she just went the extra mile, arranging the buses. She made sandwiches for us to eat on the bus. I mean, she took all of her students under her wing and nurtured them so beautifully that everybody benefited. Miss Terry, the dramatics teacher, at the end of the year would take her group of students to Bucks County to a theater performance and to eat at a lovely restaurant on the canal in Bucks County. These teachers were just unbelievable. As I think back on it, these teachers gave so much of their own time and energy and interest that it just inspired those students who were lucky enough to be in their classes. I'm sure that wonderful opportunity happens now. I'm sure that the teachers here are as giving and probably even more so in this day and age. And I hope that you all are taking note of it and benefiting from it, because it's what sets up the tone of the rest of your life. It really puts you in such a wonderful place. You always look back on what they have provided for you and draw upon it. And it helps towards some sort of success, whatever success any of us have had. I'm sure we all attribute to the teachers that have given so much, and to the community, the McCaskey community, and Lancaster County. I mean, all my relatives are still here in Lancaster County. I've come back, but I've never been in this building since then, and I'm really inspired to be back here. And I hope that you are all inspired and to be part of this building, this experience that you're having before you graduate. I think that's sort of all I wanted to say. I think you should just all go for whatever your hobby is, whatever your passion is. Don't be afraid to go after it. The joy in just reaching as far as you can reach makes so many things possible that you don't think might be possible when you first walk out the door with your diploma in hand. I wish you all luck and a joyous life and much success, and thank you.
Our next award recipient, Kenneth Stoudt, is currently president of Corporate Healthcare Strategies Incorporated, which is an employee benefits consulting firm. Kenneth co-founded and is past president and chairman of the board of Self-Insurance Institute of America. He co-founded Preferred Healthcare of Lancaster. He serves on the board of directors for the University of Richmond, Fulton Financial Corporation, Lancaster Health Alliance, the Economic Development Company, and the Lancaster Foundation for Education in Richmond. Mr. Kenneth Stoudt.
Good morning. Just a discussion on the physical facility that we have here, and listening to Dr. Bishop, I just sit here and think, wow, you know, what it would have been like 60-some years ago to come into this school as the first students to arrive here, and how impressive they would have been. I just think that would have been just a tremendous experience to come in here and to be the first ones. First of all, I'd like you to know that I'm pleased to be here, and I'm proud to receive the McCaskey Distinguished Alumni Award, and most of all, I'm proud to be a McCaskey graduate. You're going to be hearing about Dennis Schmid, which will be following me today. And Dennis was a classmate of mine, and I'd be remiss not to mention that Dennis was a classmate of mine. I'm sorry he's not here to receive his award today. But I would like to make just one or two comments that Dennis was a very well-liked and very respected classmate of mine. And I think basically the best thing I can say about Dennis, besides obviously doing well academically and all that, Dennis was just a really, really nice person. So congratulations to Dennis. I graduated in 1961, and 45 years is a long time. Consequently, I thought I would help you to relate what was happening in my world in McCaskey in the years of 1959, 60, and 61. In music, Elvis Presley's career was sort of coming to an end. It had peaked out. The Beatles were just charging and coming in. We had people like Fats Domino, the Platters, the Drifters, Jerry Lee Lewis, Gladys Knight, and the Pips. Movies, we had Elvis, Blue Hawaii. And I think most importantly, we had Paul Newman in The Hustler, which I think today all of us would still enjoy seeing again. And then we had Audrey Hepburn, Breakfast at Tiffany's. Cars, we were driving Chevy Bel Air and the Volkswagen Beetle, and just come into its own. Some of the miscellaneous items, John F. Kennedy was elected president, East Germany closed its border, Sprite was introduced, and Eddie Murphy and Princess Di were born. And that's hard to say. Locally, 10,000 people greeted Senator Kennedy in Penn Square. 50,000 people greeted Nixon at the airport. In sports, the United States defeats Russia in hockey in the Olympics. Who can ever forget that event? And for the basketball players out there, Wilt Chamberlain scores 100 points at the Hershey Arena. And that was exciting to read about and be part of. Locally, McCaskey was state champs in track and football, and most other sports were District 3 champs, such as tennis, swimming, soccer, and baseball. I like to think even if we had a checkers team, or we had basically a checkers team or a debate team or whatever, if we would have been there, we would have been District 3 champs or state champions. My path to McCaskey was via Lafayette Elementary School and Reynolds Junior High School. So I think I heard some applause when he mentioned Reynolds today. I was sort of curious when he mentioned the 4 junior high schools, and I was going to ask, has anybody attended all 4? But that would have been a little sarcastic, so. I was very active in sports and was very fortunate to have outstanding coaches. Our head football coach was Boyd Spinago, a coach with high principles and who was able to guide us through some very successful football seasons and track seasons. Coach Spinago made sure we were fundamentally sound, mentally and physically prepared for our competition. However, his key contribution to the team was to instill pride in ourselves, pride in our school, and pride in our community. His character, his leadership, his core values, mediocrity is not acceptable, a can-do attitude, were all key influences as I matured and moved forward with my life. Most of us did not have money, most of us did not have big homes, most of us didn't have cars. Most of us came from working class, blue-collar families. However, what we did have were teachers and coaches that served as positive role models, students that had respect for the teachers and coaches, and students that had respect for each other. Together we formed this family environment that had pride in our school, pride in our community, and most of all, pride in ourselves. An associate of mine asked whether high school or college had the most influence on me both personally and professionally. The answer was very easy: high school. My McCaskey roots are always with me. Those roots of pride, character, respect, and integrity. I believe that respect and pride is a byproduct of no secrets. And I thought the McCaskey boys always had an edge over all the other schools when it came to those secrets. And the big answer is why? Well, it's very simple. Because we had swimming classes twice a week, and we had to swim without swimming suits. So nude swimming brought us together as a class. And believe me, there was no hiding and no secrets in our swimming class. And that was twice a week. Hopefully you had a cold or a flu or something you can get out of running. I think it's also nice, with Mayor Schmid here and Mayor Morris, I'd like to say that they were both in my swimming classes also. So it's always nice to say, good morning, Mayor. Do you remember our swimming class? Looking back, McCaskey also helped us deal with adversity. Everybody has adversity in his or her own personal and professional life. No one gets a free pass. Adversity can be many things, from health, disability, to drug and alcohol dependency. How you deal with adversity is most important. I personally believe that many good things are a result of overcoming adversity. And I want to give you two examples today. Laszlo Barini, who I believe received this award 2 years ago, was a classmate of mine again in 1961. Laszlo arrived in the United States from Central Europe in 4th or 5th grade at Lafayette Elementary School. They were poor, and the family was poor, and the total family didn't speak any English at all. And they were brought here from Central Europe by their church. Laszlo learned to speak English by going to the Manor Street movie theater. Now, most of you here today would not remember the Manor Street movie theater, but in essence, it's right there near where the Kunstler plant is today. And the movie cost 10 cents. So much for inflation. But Laszlo would pay his 10 cents and see the movie twice. And that's how he learned to speak English. Now Laszlo is one of the most respected people on Wall Street. CNN, Lou Dobbs, Fortune magazine. And it's really exciting to me to be listening to CNN and listen to Lou Dobbs, and they say, well, let's go to Laszlo for an opinion. And I say, I know that guy. And I'm really McCaskey proud when I see him. At dinner one evening, I asked Laszlo, you are competing with graduates from the best universities and prep schools, and a brotherhood of nepotism. How did you break the barrier? And his answer was, Ken, Wall Street only cares about results. And two, he said, my McCaskey roots and upbringing are my assets, not my liabilities. I'm currently president of the board of the Milagro House, a long-term transition program for mothers and children. I'd like to share a story with you. One of our residents was a drug-addicted mother of 3. She loses her children. The father of the children goes to jail for drug dealing. She comes to the Milagro House, recaptures her children, graduates from the Millersville University, now attends Temple for her master's, marries the father of her children, and just purchased her first home. So you can see there is no low enough that you can't pull yourself out. And I think that's an important message today. And McCaskey has helped me deal with adversity and will help all of us. But these are two stories that are saying you can do it and you can overcome adversity. In conclusion, there's plenty of hope and opportunity in that business world. Be the best you can be, and always remember to be a proud McCaskey graduate. Thank you.
Our next award winner, Dennis Schmid, retired from McCaskey from teaching in 1998. Dennis taught English at McCaskey for over 33 years, and I had the pleasure also of being a student of Dennis's. He loved journalism, and he was an advisor to the Vidette for over 30 years. During that time, the Vidette was awarded the Keystone Award for 25 of 30 years, and the Pennsylvania School Press Association had recognized the Vidette as one of the top publications in the state for over 20 consecutive years. Dennis impacted so many of his students. He inspired them to pursue careers in journalism, both in the print and television mediums. Dennis passed away shortly after retiring, and today accepting on behalf of Dennis is Mrs. Sharon Schmid.
This is not my forte to be up here. This would have been my husband's forte. He loved being in front of the McCaskey student body. So today, my family and I are very honored to accept this award in memory of Denny. He truly loved J.P. McCaskey. In fact, he lived, ate, and breathed McCaskey. His blood was red and black. When Denny first thought about becoming a teacher, this was the only school where he wanted to teach. He loved the diversity of the student body and the many opportunities that McCaskey offered them. Unfortunately, most or none of you have any idea who Denny was. However, if you have older brothers or sisters or parents who went here, I'm sure they would be glad to fill you in. Mr. Gray, Mr. Ernst, Mr. Flick, Miss Krepp, Mr. Ekman, Miss Keller, who was a classmate of Denny's, and Mr. Deardorff. Our son-in-law would be only too glad to give you some insight, I'm sure. While growing up in Lancaster, Denny lived on 1st Street, South Prince Street, and Madison Street. He attended Reynolds Junior High School before entering J.D. McCaskey in 1958. He was active in sports, but had to give up some in order to pursue a part-time job to go to college. Although I met him after high school, I would talk with his former classmates at reunions. I learned he was somewhat of a class clown, and his classmates were almost horrified to learn that he was going to be teaching their children. Denny's sense of humor was prevalent in his teaching. He loved to joke and have a good time with his students, and at the same time having their respect. He was also well known for some of his practical jokes on fellow teachers, some of which I would like to share with you, but I'm sure the administration might frown upon it. Then he put his heart and soul into teaching. In addition to teaching during the day, he taught adult night school for about 10 years, summer school for almost 25 years, and was the vedette advisor for 32 years, the longest of any advisor. The vedette was his baby. He took great pride in helping to guide the staff to an award-winning newspaper for over a quarter of a century. It won the highest Pennsylvania School Press Association award for 25 straight years. Some of his students have gone on to positions in broadcast journalism, editors of newspapers, covering the White House for the Baltimore Sun, and now working for the Channel 12 News in Washington, D.C. One manages political campaigns, one writes movie reviews nationally, one is an assistant PA in Lancaster. One young lady became the first woman editor-in-chief of a newspaper near Washington, Pennsylvania, and these are just a few of the ones that I know of. Denny retired 7 years ago this June and died 40 days later. Although our family and friends are sad that he is not here today to receive this prestigious award, those of us who know him can see his eyes burning with tears, satisfaction, and pride. He dreamed of one day winning this award. I'd like to leave you with a thought that he might leave with you. Being challenged is inevitable. Being defeated is optional. Never give up.
Ann Gerhart was a student of Mr. Schmid. She was also co-editor of the Vedette and has enjoyed a career in journalism. She has worked for the Lancaster New Era and is currently with the Washington Post. Ann wrote a biography of First Lady Mora Bush, which was on the New York Times bestseller list. She has been a commentator on CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, all those others, and also National Public Radio. Ms. Ann Gerhart.
Good morning. I haven't been back on this stage either. I've been since I was in the chorus of Fiddler on the Roof and had to wear a black wig so I could look appropriately Jewish for the part. I don't think that I haven't been speaking to this larger group of high school students since I had to give the valedictory address for my graduation in 1973. I was valedictorian not because I had the best grades, I didn't, they were okay, they were pretty good I guess, but I wrote the best speech, I guess, according to my English teacher. And I too, like Mr. Mora and like everyone else today who has spoken, had a few teachers who really made my years here important for me. I didn't always like high school, actually. I didn't like the cliques, and I lots of times felt out of step with what group did what. I must have had some anxiety about coming back today, because here I am, 49 years old, and my face must have known I was coming back to high school. I woke up and had a pimple this morning. So, You know, charting those courses, there were the cheerleaders, and there were the jocks, and there were the theater kids who were always kind of off on their own thing, usually back off by the railroad tracks at lunchtime, doing what theater kids did. It was sometimes hard to maneuver. And what I had were a couple of teachers who let me know it was okay to delve deeply into the subjects that mattered to me. And one was Dennis Schmid, who was always welcoming for irreverent people like me. And one of them was Miss Buckwalter, who was my English teacher, and who made me somehow think that writing a Shakespearean sonnet in iambic pentameter was one of the most exciting ways you could spend a whole week's worth of evenings. And sort of encouraged me to feel that it was okay to be weird about stuff like that. So I have taken away from McCaskey that it's good to embrace your passion. I am unusual, I guess, in that I always knew I wanted to work for a newspaper from the time I was at Reynolds Junior High School and had Estelle Marcuse for English and Ted Fitzgerald for English. And I just thought it was the perfect thing for somebody with a short attention span like me. Years before we knew what attention deficit disorder was, there were people who wanted to go into newspapers because they liked the kind of quick changing aspect of what happened on a daily basis. You know, there would be a fire or there would be some drama and you could go interview anybody. It was the most perfect thing for somebody who was always nosy. You could go up and ask anybody what you wanted to know, and pretty much they would have to tell you. And that is something I embraced when I was younger and here, and that is something that serves me well in my work today. I've learned to try to be polite about it over the years, but the beauty of my job is if you're nosy about something, you can usually find the answer. And you know, even from people in the White House, although they're my toughest ones yet so far. So I guess that, you know, what I've learned as I reflect back on my high school career is that teachers also want to feel a sense of achievement. I didn't know that when I was in high school, but I have a 10th grader now myself, and lots of times she'll say to me, "Mom, you just don't understand, like the teachers don't care." And I say, well, there might be some days that some of them don't care, but they went into this line of work because they wanted to give of themselves. And if you can reach out and find that one who does care, then you can develop a relationship that's going to help you figure out who you are, what you care about, what your strengths are, and what your passion is. I was really struck in reading about Mr. Schmid after his death of some of the people who had gone into journalism as a result of their work with him. One young woman said, you know, what I really liked about him was he just never made me feel stupid. And I was so struck that for so many young people, especially those who are sort of maybe drifting in high school and not really sure who they are, the most important thing is that you find people who don't make you feel stupid, because nobody is, and everyone has a gift to give. And that was something that I learned here, recognizing that we had all kinds of students. A lot of people said to me, you know, when you go back to McCaskey, you're going to find it's really changed. And I said, well, in what way? You know, and how? They'd say, well, you know, it's just different. And I have to say, it doesn't feel a lot different to me at all. When I went to high school in the mid-70s, it was a time of great turmoil in America. We were in the midst of an unpopular war. There were racial problems throughout the big cities that had bled into the smaller cities. And this was a mixed high school then, with sometimes animosities among groups of students. So we all had an opportunity to learn how to get along with each other and to build those bridges. And that's a gift. I can't tell you how many times when I got older and I went out into the world, I ran into people who had grown up in a community where everybody was the same. Everybody was upper middle class, or everybody was all really working class, or they worked at a factory, or they were completely an agricultural town, and they had no capacity to understand how to deal with other people. And for me, that was one of the great gifts growing up in Lancaster and going to McCaskey. I didn't realize it at the time. I was one of those kids who said, I can't wait to get out of this small town. But now that I have gone away and I live outside Washington and I've lived in Philadelphia, I have come to recognize the strength of roots in a town where people do know each other and they do care about each other and they do have to live side by side, elbow to elbow, and learn to get along. So I hope that as you all go forth in the world, the juniors becoming seniors, the seniors walking across the stage and getting their diplomas and tossing the tassel on their caps, you will be able to take away some of that from your experience growing up in this town and going to this high school as well. Thank you.
Final recipient, Mr. Frank Wright Jr., currently works for NASA as a member of the technical staff at the Goddard Space Flight Center. He also works for AI Solutions Incorporated as a systems engineer. Mr. Wright is successfully supported as an analyst or section leader for over 30 space shuttle missions and 40 ELV satellite missions. He has served in the Air Defense Artillery Branch of the U.S. Army. Frank currently volunteers and coaches at the Bowie Boys and Girls Club. Please welcome Mr. Frank Wright Jr.
Good morning, teachers, students, and all of you hearing my voice. I am thankful for this recognition, and I'm extremely humbled. I'm asked only to speak 4 minutes about how McCaskey prepared me for my successes in life thus far. So please bear with me, and I promise to be brief. This is a little uneasy, since in my heart, I feel like just yesterday, I was in this same school environment for my very own graduation. However, I know that is not true, since most of you were not even born then. I continue to strive to accomplish greater things with a youthful zeal. This school has consistency in this community. Things may get better, but it's good to see that there's still some consistency still here. As a child, I went to Wickersham Elementary. Entering my teenage years, I went to Lincoln, which was then a junior high school. And as a young adult, I went to school here at John Pearsall McCaskey High School, or as we called it back then, JP State. What did my experience at McCaskey do to prepare me for my success? The simple answer is, it gave me confidence that I was ready to take on the world, and I am extremely thankful for the privilege to have cut my teeth here, made my mistakes here, taken my test here, to have been put in the fire here. Because having been tested here, I realized that when I'm up against something, anything that appears insurmountable, I realize that I'm battle tested. I have been here in this experience before. When I left McCaskey, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, to attend college in Washington, D.C. at Howard University, and as I continue to travel, the first question I'm asked is, where am I from? I usually simply say, Pennsylvania. I'm comfortable knowing that they're not aware of my relatively small hometown. However, when they persist with the questions and presume Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, or Harrisburg, I say no, no, and no. I then take over the questioning and I say, I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, with extreme pride. When I left McCaskey, I will say, humbly, there was very little here left for me to accomplish. I did, as my biography can attest, most everything from the coolest of cools to the nerdiest of nerds. I was involved both academically, athletically, and socially. There was very little activities or very few people within this environment that I was not involved with. However, when I left, I was just one material point in the dark regarding life and the world outside of here. It was humbling initially, but I quickly regrouped and realized that as I've had to do all my life, they just don't know who I am. I was this, that, and the other at home, and I will be this, that, and the other here too. I have, and I continue to be, a light of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, John Pearsall McCaskey High School, and you will too. The question is whether you will be a good beacon or a bad beacon. I look forward to reading and hearing of the triumphs you all will make in your journeys. It would please my heart, soothe my soul, it would bring a smile on my face, or any other happy thought you can conjure up to hear of your successes. There is a spirit in each of you, but you must acknowledge it first and prepare yourself to achieve it, all that you want out of life. You have to step out of your comfort zone while you're here at McCaskey. Try new things, even if they don't seem popular with your peers. Get in touch with that inner you. Become battle-tested. I'm reminded of a story of a big, ugly bear and a woman. Are you all aware of it? A woman saw a big, ugly bear, mean bear in her dreams. Everybody say dreams. She screams, "Oh bear, what are you going to do with me?" Frightened look on her face, and the bear says, "I don't know. This is your dream. I will do whatever you want me to do in your dream." I say that to say, do not let anyone stand between you and your dreams. Not a big ugly bear, your friends, your family, teachers, or even yourself. Believe in yourself, but most importantly, prepare yourself while you're here at McCaskey High School. And again, I'm honored and thankful. Thank you very much.
Finally, I'd like to offer all of you to give one final applause for all of them. Any family members or friends of any of our award winners, please stand. I didn't get that opportunity earlier. Will be recognized. I hope that while what you see up here does represent the past, it's also a glimpse into what your future is. Because you seniors, again, are going to embark on your future very shortly, you juniors in a year from now. So what you're seeing up here is actually a glimpse of what you are going to become in the future. You heard many positive statements. You see many positive role models. You all have that opportunity. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Irving Scott. He will give some closing remarks and final instructions.
Thank you very much. There's a spirit in each of you. You must acknowledge it first. It's good to embrace your passion. Everyone has a gift to give. Being challenged is inevitable. Being defeated is optional. There's no low enough that you can't pull yourself out. High school sets the tone for the rest of your life. These are powerful words. I hope you've listened to them and placed them inside of each of you. We congratulate each of our Distinguished Alumni Awards recipients. Your academic as well as extracurricular achievement while attending McCaskey High School has validated what we have come to believe about this school. McCaskey is a school rich with opportunity and traditions, which if taken advantage of, can last a lifetime. Staff and students, thank you for your attention and cooperation. You've done a phenomenal job. Thank you very much. At this time, we will dismiss the classes back to first period. Thank you. Have a good day.